aloha, everyone, and welcome. Hi, my name's Phyliss Wigfall, and I want to welcome you to Breaking Through Your Glass Ceiling, how to unlock your leadership potential and take your career to the next level. So the intention of this summit is to explore the topic of breaking through your internal and external glass ceiling to get to the level of success that you desire. And so in this interview series, we've been talking about what it takes to break through to that next level and how to step into your authentic power and become the inspiring leader in your personal and professional life. I'm your host, Phyliss Wigfall, executive coach from awakeninglives.com, and today we have another amazing guest. I have here with us Dr. Marcy Cole. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Phyliss, and to everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And our topic today is the holistic model for professional communication. I wanted to share a little bit about Dr. Marcy Cole before we get started here. Dr. Marcy Cole is a holistic psychotherapist, best-selling co-author, speaker, community mobilizer, and humanitarian visionary. She is the blog author for the Huffington Post. She's also published best-selling co-author The Living Proof, Celebrating the Gifts That Came Wrapped in Sandpaper, and Get Your Woman On, Embracing Beauty, Grace, and the Power of Women. Also, Marcy's been featured on television shows including Dr. Drew's Life Challenges, Millionaire Matchmaker, Braxton Family Values, Issues with Jane Velez Mitchell, and H&L, and National Geographic's Taboo, and Fox's News New York. And in the fall 2011, Marcy launched a viral platform for women without children. Childless Mothers Connect, Celebrating Mother Within Every Woman. She also founded a group called First Tuesdays LA, offering on- and offline programming to promote social connectivity, professional networking, and social service. They're also an online network in Chicago, Illinois. And she's also the founder and executive director for the nonprofit organization Sea Mama, Childless Mother Adopt, promoting the connection between single individuals and couples without children and children in need through adoption, hosting, mentorship, and sponsorship. Gosh, wow, this is amazing.
That's a mouthful.
How do you have time?
Sorry about that, Phyliss. Sorry about that.
That's so great. And so, Marcy, what I find so amazing about the work that you do is your holistic model. And so I'm curious, how do you apply the holistic model when you coach professionals on relationship and career success?
Well, okay, so let's talk about what the holistic model really is. I mean, I was trained as a psychotherapist very traditionally. And it's funny, someone emailed me recently and said, where did you get your degree in holistic psychotherapy? And I said, I didn't. I made it up. I mean, I didn't make up the word holistic, obviously, in the concept, but I have applied this concept to the way I work with individuals, couples, and families. And on the work front as well, when I start coaching people in their professional lives, it is definitely applicable. And, I guess the best way to do this, Phyliss, and to talk to everyone about it is to walk through what the holistic model means. The holistic model is really about looking at the four dimensions of our being, of our existence: our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. And so it's kind of like imagine four legs on a table. If you are attending to one or a couple, but not all of them, we tend to feel the imbalance. And so when we look at our professional life, we're a human being taking ourselves into our professional life. And so whatever's going on in the mind, body, heart, spirit, whatever's going on with that and within ourselves is going to impact, obviously, what we do professionally, our career, our finances, our business. And so what we can do is we can kind of walk through it if you want and walk through it, okay? So, so we can start with the body. Oftentimes we're walking around disconnected from our bodies. We're like, okay, the alarm goes off, we jump out of bed, okay, we have this, we get online, we look at our messages, we run to the office, or if we have an office at home, we start a conference call, we have our to-do list, and we wonder why, particularly women, so many people are on like adrenal exhaustion. So, our bodies is the vessel for all that we do. And so we just have to keep reminding ourselves to really honor our bodies and take really, really, really good care of it so that it can support us in sharing our message with the world, so it can support us in all of the connections we're trying to make and the impact we're trying to have. And so obviously, if you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, how am I doing in my body? How do I connect to that part of my beingness as it relates to business? And of course, we're looking at sleep. We know from studies that to have optimal brain functioning, which obviously you need in business, women need 8 to 10 hours of sleep for optimal, brain and immune functioning. Men need 7 to 8 hours sleep. So how are we doing?
That's a lot. 8 to 10, 7 to 10.
Yeah, 7 to 8 for men and 8 to 10 for women.
Wow.
I was at Canyon Ranch Spa, and there was a sleep expert there, and I remember him saying, how many people in the room think 7 hours is adequate? And so many people raised their hand. And we're going to bed later than ever now because of social media as well as online everything, and people just get addicted to their screens, or they go to bed tired and they wake up tired. So obviously that's going to impact our day in ways that sometimes we're aware of and sometimes we're not. We're looking at nutrition, and of course there's lots of science behind food and mood, and again they call it superfood because it's brain food, and looking at what makes what creates a foggy brain, in terms of carbs and sugar and all that, and what creates vitality and energy throughout your day. And of course, exercise we know is sends serotonin to the brain. It gives us energy throughout our day. And also, when it comes to the body, having stress management tools at hand, because life, whether it's on the personal front or the professional front, things can get stressful at times, right? So what do? Are we waking up with a simple ritual of meditation? Do we know how to stop and breathe? Do we know how to get grounded and get our feet planted on the earth and get in nature? What is it that we do when we get stressed? And so that is all. That's just the body we're talking about. That's the first frontier. So Does that make sense?
And that's a lot of pieces there. Yeah, because you talked about sleep, nutrition, exercise, and also a ritual. And I know so many people that are like, oh, but I eat kind of whatever I want, like it doesn't affect me. What do you say to people that are not really conscious or connected to their body and or maybe they're just on a default mode and they're so used to a certain way of being, they don't know how good it could be, their connection with their body?
Well, I think you're right. I think that's exactly what happens a lot, Phyllis, because, I remember having a client once who was a model. She was a beautiful girl in her early 20s. And I remember her talking about, having a hard time sustaining energy throughout the day, and she had volatile moods and all this. Well, it was a few months into our work together that I found out that her diet basically consisted of Diet Coke and Doritos. And, and so I said to her, okay, the next session we have, will you meet me at Whole Foods with $200? Besides our session, will you gift yourself $200 for a shopping spree with me, where I can share with you and fill up your cart with nutritious food that's going to fuel your brain, help your central nervous system and your gut, and give you energy throughout the day, and in some ways detox the body too. And she did.
Right.
So it is, it is a lot, and a lot of times people don't even know how good they can feel and how productive they can be until they change their habits. But a lot of times what happens is people are motivated when things are not working. They're tired, they're sluggish, they can't focus, and that's when oftentimes they have more of an incentive to start being open to the science behind mind, body, and body health. So that is, those are some things I think that are really key when it comes to, really attending to the body and how it impacts our day and everyone we come into contact and everything we do. Of course, we spend 5 out of 7 days, if not more, on our business.
Yeah.
Many of us, So, and then mind, heart, body, mind, body, heart connection. We started with the body. Let's go to the mind now, okay? So the mind, how does mental health impact our business? Well, mindset is everything.
Yeah.
And we've heard of mind, body, of course. I love, T. Harv Eker for a lot of us in the professional, particularly the entrepreneurial world. He is the author of The Millionaire Mind, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And I love how he said, he reminds everyone that our programming leads to our thoughts, and our thoughts lead to our feelings, and our feelings lead to your actions, and your actions lead to your results. So he says, therefore nothing, just as done with a personal computer, by changing your programming, you take the first essential step to changing your results. So, again, this is about thought precedes form. So this is really important. It's really important that we check in with our beliefs about ourselves and about everyone we come into contact with. In terms of, in terms of how do we feel about ourselves? What are our beliefs about ourselves? And this is going to have absolute connection with the potential for forming mutually beneficial alliances. And so, I remember just last week, I was working with a client who was going to give a really, really big presentation. She thought it was to like 10 people, and it turns out it was to 100. And she was having all of these, very, very nervous feelings and feeling really, really scared about the whole thing. And we talked about it, and we looked at her beliefs going into this presentation, and we started to dissect them. Well, number one, she had a running belief going on that everybody in the room was more experienced than her, because she was talking to people in the field that she was talking to that had been in the field for, 20, 30 years. And the second belief she had running was that they were all smarter than her. And so we literally, in order to bring her down from the place of anxiety to excitement, we needed to help her reprogram her mind going into this presentation. And so instead of, we talked about, instead of her feeling like she had to sell anything or prove herself, all she was doing was sharing the information from her experience, from her expertise, and knowing that it will be, that she doesn't have to know how many people it will impact. If it impacts 1 out of 100, like significantly, what a blessing, right? So we want to tune into what are we thinking about ourselves, and also, of course, we'll talk a little bit about more of this when it comes to the heart emotional health too. But we also want to check into, unconscious cultural bias. When we're out there in the world doing business, there's a whole lot of stuff that we're assuming about other people as well. Whether we might be assuming that they're, superior, like she was to us in some way, where ego takes over, or that they're inferior. We might be in judgment of them, and we might not even know how amazing, what an incredible alliance could be right in front of us. So we want to check in with the thoughts, the assumptions, the perceptions that are going on in our mind.
And how do you help people to be able to not only connect with their mindset, but be able to shift it?
Yeah, great question. I mean, this is a journey for all of us.
Right. Yeah.
It's, what, I compare it to kind of like, okay, like you're in your car, you're listening to a radio station, and you're listening to rap music that's really toxic. That's got a whole lot of fear-based, judgment-based, separation amongst one or the other, yourself and others, and all this kind of mean-spirited jargon. Yeah. And you decide to change the station, and you listen to they now have what's called conscious rap, which is really amazing, like affirmations in rap music, right? So you change the station. The same is true for our thoughts. I mean, our thoughts are just like T. Harv Eker was saying, they're just programming. It's just a program. So the first step is to become aware. To become aware. Oh, well, what am I? What I didn't. She was feeling my client. She was feeling really nervous about it. Well, why am I feeling nervous? Well, we peel away the layers. What am I believing about this? What thoughts are running through my head? And then, of course, once we acknowledge that, we usually can debunk them pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
in terms of their factual evidence. You know, there's usually not a lot of factual evidence to it. It's just all made up.
Yeah.
And if we can make it up, we can make up something else that actually really tunes in a hell of a lot more to actual truth and to the essence and of our potential and our values and what we would even say or teach someone else that we care about. So we literally take an old script and we make up a new script. That's how we do it.
Oh, and I love the analogy that you bring, Marcy, which is it's like you become aware and then just change the station. Like I love the radio thing because it makes it so much more easier. Like I totally got what you were saying when you brought that in. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, of course. And that's right. And the other thing that we can do that's a shortcut is you really do ask yourself, what would I say, or, you know, if I was in the coaching position or if I was supporting a dear friend that I believe in and they were coming with all this trash talk about themselves or whatever it is, what would I be saying to them? What would I be reminding them of? I say to moms, my clients that are moms, you know, when they're being really hard on themselves, I'm like, is this what you would teach your child? Is this how you see your child? You know, that's another way to kind of, boy, it gets us right back to the, you know, the pure, you know, the real core, right, of what we really believe and what we really want. So,
yeah, that's good.
So your mind, you know, mental health, you know, where your head's at in your mindset, you know, and of course, you know, it's going to have a direct impact on our business. And so you want to move into to emotional health and the heart?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up how it does impact our business because I can see how if I'm more of a positive mindset or have more of a, you know, an inviting energy, I'm going to probably be more, I'm going to be better at, let's say, customer service or better at managing my team as opposed to if I'm in a negative mindset or upset or find that I'm very pessimistic. Like that does impact not only my well-being, but it can impact how I relate to my team or my customers.
No question about it. That's absolutely correct. And in fact, that's a really good segue into emotional health and the heart.
Oh, yes, perfect.
It really does. Yeah, for sure. It really does. Because, again, so, you know, so many of us, right, we're walking around like thinking from the neck up and having all this mind chatter, mental health, you know, this stuff that goes on in our minds that we just talked about, our perceptions, our assumptions, our beliefs. And then we drop in, and then when that stuff's playing, it comes down into the heart. And so if we drop into our heart, you know, our emotional health is about the affinity for ourselves and others. It's all about that. Is it open? Is it fluid? Or is it dismissive? And is it downright, you know, contracting? And so when it comes to connection with self, we can break this up. Connection with ourselves, connection with others. Connection with ourselves, you know, that what you were just saying reminded me of this. You know, it was either Freud or Groucho Marx that said, I never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me as a member. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, right? If we are thinking from a place of a negative thought process really hard in ourselves and therefore deep goes from the mind into the heart, and then we don't feel that great about ourselves, of course, how can we possibly imagine that there's going to be an antenna to the world that says, I'm available, I rock, and so do you. So let's hang out and let's collaborate and let's get to know each other and see how we can benefit each other. So obviously we need to get to a place where we can feel good enough about ourselves to believe and advocate for reasons why other people should hire and collaborate with you, right?
Yeah.
So which is what you were talking about. And you know, the other piece of this is when it comes to emotional health in our business, you know, our heart is where we hear our calling. We don't hear our calling from our intellect. We hear our calling from the heart. And dropping into that place is you know, it's within that sort of knowing that passion and purpose arise, and which is essential for our success. And so when we get to that place and we feel it, oh my gosh, then we can be psyched about it. And then the way we talk about it is contagious. It's kind of like the psychic engine that launches and amplifies, you know, the messages that we're trying to share in the services we're offering. So this is really, really important. Feeling worthy and feeling like we have something to offer and share and contribute, feeling the calling of what we're here to really share and contribute, and starting to express that. And, and the other thing is that, when we're talking about what it is that, when our heart is really getting tuned into that calling, it's really important to also hear not just the what is calling me to share with the world in terms of what I want to share through my business, but it's also the why. Why? Because the why is where you're going to have your motivation and inspiration. And when times get tough in business, which they do, we need to get back to our why. Why am I doing this again? Why am I offering this again? Why is this service or this product so valuable? Why did I used to be so passionate when you have your lulls because you're overworked or, you have a few clogs in the wheel, you have a few, things, hurdles to get through, we can start to feel uninspired. But when we get back to what our calling is and the why of our calling, we can return.
And then, Marcy, how do you work with people that don't feel connected to their heart or don't know if they've felt the calling or that may not even know what it is? And then on the flip side, the people that are like feeling connected to everything and don't know how to focus.
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. Okay, so let's talk about the people who go, I have no idea, I don't hear anything, right? Usually, okay, so there's two things that come to mind. Number one is we want to help them take the pressure off. We want to help them go into a state of lighthearted reflection and lighthearted curiosity and exploration instead of, oh, my God, I don't know, and the judgment and the stress that creates, which also shuts down the brain and the heart. So we want to enter that question with, okay, I don't know. Cool. Let's just be with that. That means I have an open, I have a client that was just laid off a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't talked to her until today, actually this morning, and she was feeling still very depressed because she has all these thoughts about it. And what am I going to do? And what am I going to do? And we did this exact exercise where we said, well, gosh, when you move from a place of, lack into a place of possibility, then you get to go, I'm not sure, so I'm going to have a good time exploring, right? And, how do we explore? Well, there's an internal process and there's an external process. The internal process is that quiet time. It's the still time. It's the time where the morning is a really good time for that. When we can, I say to my clients, just wake up 20 minutes earlier. Have that time for yourself. That stillness, just to listen. It's usually a very quiet whisper, that calling thing. It's usually very quiet. It sort of knocks. It's quiet, and then it gets louder, and then it gets louder. But if we don't stop and listen, how can we possibly hear, right?
Yeah, that's
so that's that's the internal process. The external process is that we start asking questions of other people. What do you do? What's it like? What's your day like? And as we start to, we talk about informational interviews, like when we get out there and we start asking the people close and the people on the periphery and the people we don't even know that we read in a magazine, we start asking more questions. What's going to happen is we're going to have a little tuning fork that says, oh, that's cool. Wow, that's interesting. I'm one of my clients that I work with on Skype is a 15-year-old on the East Coast. And his parents wanted me to start working with him because he was feeling kind of uninspired. Nothing was interesting. Everything was boring, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, I turned my computer around to the water. I live on the water. And he lit up like a Christmas tree. He's like, oh, my God, I'd love to be there. And it was like, well, there you go. We'll call him Mark for the purposes. Like, well, there you go, Mark. You just had a skip in your step, So when we start to interact with the external world, we start to get to know ourselves again. and we start to tap into some of the answers to those questions.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that, the stillness. And then also asking information and noticing when our energy changes, and that can give us kind of an indicator of what excites us or kind of moving in that direction.
Exactly. And so the other piece and the final piece, I would think, for purposes of our talk today, since we only have a limited amount of time, but honestly, I mean, we talk about emotional health and the heart. We talked about connection to self, we know, and we talked about the connection to our calling. And then we're also talking about connection with the other, which is the people, you know, the other on the business plane is who are our potential clients, customers, or colleagues, right? And so, you know, so creating and sustaining and growing relationships is what business is all about, right? I mean, literally. Yeah. That's what it's all about. It always comes down to relationships. I remember in my 20s, I worked for a television rep firm, and I was an account executive on a team where we were the mediator between the big advertising agency media buyers for television and the affiliate stations, the top 10 markets of television stations. And so I remember, you know, I had an affiliate station in 10 markets along with the rest of my team. And at the end of the day, you know, our job was to get the highest share of business on our station of commercial time. And at the end of the day, it was all about relationship. Whether I got 60% on the package or 40%, it was all about the relationship. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. So, you know, for the purpose of our talk, I mean, there are some constructive communication tools I'd love to share with you about how do we create a heart connection, a real heart connection with the people we could potentially do business with. So, you ready to go there?
Yes, I am. That's great.
Okay. These are things that we're not that unfamiliar with, and for some, they just might be wonderful reminders, really, but they are reminders. We have to stop and remind ourselves of what we already know most of the time. So just a few things that I think are really important to make a heart connection that can really, you know, again, launch and sustain a wonderful, you know, professional relationship. The first is listening. Just listening. You know, being, you know, when we're talking to somebody, you know, being present to hearing what they have to say. And oftentimes we can get caught in our own response or our own agenda. But just tuning in, you know, to the other person, you know, who are they? What's their zone of genius that's coming out? You know, what do we hear in their vision and their dreams? And what are the challenges that they might be facing that they're sharing with us? And as well as, you know, hearing and acknowledging the ways in which they're stretching and they're in flow and they're rocking it. So listening. That's you know, when you meet somebody anywhere, it's like, hi, nice to meet you. Who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? Right? I mean, and so we're in a place of active listening, though, right? Really being present. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. The second thing is that, you know, when we're in business, we're often negotiating. We're negotiating, you know, we're negotiating deals. We're negotiating joint ventures, partnerships. We're negotiating closing projects or whatever. So if we can think of, oftentimes people think of negotiating as, you know, whether, you know, who gets the bigger piece of the pie, and is it going to be my way or their way? But from an emotionally healthy heart perspective, if you go into negotiating part of the process when you're in business, if you can go into it looking at it that the goal is that to have a win-win here. It's not about major compromises where it doesn't feel good. It is about a win-win scenario where it's about integration. It's about looking at what's important to you, what's important to me, what's your vision, what's my vision, and coming up with an integrative plan and agreement that feels good to both parties. Yeah. Because here's the thing. If it doesn't happen that way, someone's going to end up resenting it, and someone's going to end up feeling like that you owe them. It just doesn't work. in life, you know? And sometimes people in business agree to it because they feel sort of desperate for it to happen. But, oh, man, if they can't sign the paper and shake hands or give a squeeze with an honest, wonderful high five, like, great. Smile on their face, right? So we want to so on the negotiating plane, we really want to look at it as a win-win.
Yeah, and I love how you say integrated plan and agreement after the win-win. Like that kind of really sets the tone.
Yes, that's right. And of course, you know, I also integrated with that. I also want to add that we also want to look at, we also want to really carefully vet and carefully, sometimes people jump into partnership on the business plane as well as the romantic one, I may say. But
yes, that's true.
but sometimes really we jump in before we stop and say, is this really in alignment with my calling? Is this really in alignment with their calling? You know, we don't burn a bridge because we say no. We burn a bridge because we say yes when we mean no, or we say yes when we mean maybe, right? So it's not about being a pleaser. It's about really listening to the other person, listening to your own heart and your calling, and really spending time on looking at, you know, is this a great potential joint venture? If we're going to be partners, are we aligned? Do we have shared vision here? Yeah. Are our roles defined enough because we're communicating really clearly and really honestly, where it really makes sense and where we can be a good yin to our yang to each other, you know, and a really good team. So I want to add that because that's really super important too.
Yeah, that's super important.
And so important, right? And so let's say, you know, assuming that everything, you know, all of those things we've spent time vetting, we've spent time talking, we've spent time sharing, we spend time listening, and we go into these partnerships with a customer, client, or colleague. The other piece of maintaining this heart connection with the people we do business with is appreciation. You know, it's not overrated, right? It's so important, and because, you know, we all want to feel seen and heard and valued, right? And so, you know how so often someone will share something with you that someone's so terrific and, oh, my God, it was amazing. You know, how often are we really sharing it with each other? And
not that much.
So it's not enough, right? Not enough. And so to write an email, to write a text, to pick up the phone, to look at the person in person, three-dimensional form, eye to eye, and say, I so value what you're sharing with me. I so value the services that you're giving me. I so value what I'm receiving from this. And really to tell the person very directly the significance their presence has on your life and on your business. So appreciation, so important.
Yeah, that really is. And it also helps your mood, like the attitude of gratitude. It kind of uplifts the space as well for everyone.
Exactly. Touche. That's exactly right. Attitude of gratitude. I love it. So true. And finally, in this, I mean, we could talk forever about this stuff, but finally, what came to mind as we're talking is just in terms of, again, heart health, connecting to the people in business, is generosity. Because this is huge, Phyliss. This is really big because I think that, and this connects with kind of the negotiation piece too. It's about modeling versus measuring. It's about, you know, focusing on giving versus getting. You know, in the quantum physics field, right, we talk about the law of the universe, that there's an ebb and flow of giving and receiving. So we can just trust in that. Yeah. It doesn't matter if we're giving something for free to someone, if we're giving it to them again. You know, if we feel, if our heart, not because we're trying to please or get something from them, if our heart says, you know what, I want to support this person. And whether we want to give them something for, quote, free or a discount or, want to help promote their stuff and spread the word like crazy. We want to do it with an open heart and without expecting anything in return. I mean, this is, so we want to model versus measure. We want to model what it feels like to be in our heart and to truly, authentically connect with someone else and what they're doing for the world or what they're offering in their business and be like, I want to support you. I want to collaborate with you. But once we get into measuring and getting really, kind of petty, penny wise, pound foolish stuff, man,
right.
Can we lose out on opportunities on the professional field? No question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can feel it, too.
So those
that's a
right?
great point, the generosity. I mean, that can make a huge impact.
Yeah. So if we just know that what goes around comes around in the bigger picture and don't get focused on one interaction or one person or one collaboration is, well, now you owe me. That never works.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't.
It's oppressive. So those are some ideas in the constructive communication to build a heart connection and a sustaining alliance with your clients, customers, or colleagues. You're listening, you're active listening, you're negotiating from a place of a win-win, you're appreciating, you're making sure you're vetting and choosing, the partnerships that will be a win-win, and you're generous. You're coming from a place of generosity when it's authentic and it feels true and it feels natural.
Yeah.
And so so we've been through mind and body and heart, and now we're into spirit in terms of the holistic paradigm, right? So how does spirit play out? How does one's spiritual health play out on the business and career path? Marianne Williamson, who, as we know, is a huge, spiritual counselor and as a New York Times bestselling author lots of times over. I remember her saying on a talk that I love this, that we're the vessel, not the water. That when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to deliver and to figure it out and to prove ourselves, all this stuff, that actually when we go back to that calling, that heart calling, right, when we're connected to really a spiritual, like ethereal download to our calling, excuse me, that we are the vessel, we are the conduit of what's coming through us to share. And that belief in whatever one calls it, the God of their understanding, their higher self, their, whatever one wants to call it, source, universal energy, that's coming through us that impacts who we are and what we're doing here and what we have to offer, and how we do business and what we offer and who we do business with. And so from a place of spirit, it's about that connection to the divine, understanding that we are the conduit for what is coming through us, and that impacts every part of our lives. And one of the things, Phyliss, that I do, that I'm aware of a lot with in my psychotherapy practice and really everywhere, is if you imagine that every meeting and alliance is a divine appointment in your life, it becomes divine. It really does. Like, I don't think it's an accident that Brian introduced you and I, and that you and I are on the phone, and I'm privileged and honored to be a part of your series, and that anyone who's listening is going to be listening. I just don't think it's an accident. I think it's such a beautiful, synergistic download, of who we're supposed to meet and who we're supposed to hear and who we're supposed to connect to and be aware of at that time. And it's also a reminder when we're connected to spirit, it's also a reminder that we don't have control over everything. We just don't. And so part of the flow is surrendering to that which we cannot see. And who hasn't been in a situation in their business where everything either seems to stop, or it's slowing up, or it seems to be going in a different direction? You're like, whoa, I didn't steer the wheel that way. Yeah. But sometimes it's such a beautiful thing, right? Because we need it to stop, to reflect, and to surrender, and to let some things happen that come. So much of what we talk about working hard. There's definitely the principle of hard work and the ethics of putting time and attention into what we're birthing. On the other
Right.
hand, the other piece of it, we're just completely out of control over. And we need to be able to have enough faith in the divine, whatever we call the divine, enough faith to sometimes put it out there and say, okay, you know, and they talk about the law of attraction with finances and business, right? I mean, we can apply a lot of those principles, right? And so spiritual health has, you know, all of this, your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, has everything to do with who you are, how you feel, what you're feeling called to express, and how you express it in the world.
Oh, I love that. I love how it all kind of goes together and how it is all connected. And I was thinking about how in business, when I've leaned into something and it's been effortless versus when I feel like I'm pushing up against, you know, or going upstream, there is something to be said about how that kind of impacts me. People will call it intuition, spirit, hunch, but there is that flow that which we cannot see, you know, surrendering to that and trusting in it. So I love how you've put it all together.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
This is really rich stuff.
I mean, it's so, isn't it? And doesn't it, it's just, you know, we can get really heady when it comes to business. But, oh my God, you know, we're using our brain functions for sure, and we're using our brain power. But so much is we need our bodies to propel us through, and so much is coming from the core and our heart and our spiritual assignments, shall we say, and invitations and lessons and experiences. And so I love what you're doing. I love how you're inviting all of this into the series, and that you've invited me to talk about this particular vantage point of how to rock out your business with being really connected to your holistic health for yourself, because it's relevant in every way, and it will play itself out all over the place.
Yes. And it's very tangible. I mean, you talked about the holistic model for professional communication, and I love how you've broken it down into something that feels very doable. It's not so woo-woo, like it's just something that makes a lot of sense. And it's something we're kind of already doing, but it just brings a lot of consciousness to each of the levels while we're doing it. And so now I can make choices and communicate with consciousness, you know, consciously as best I can, and be able to incorporate all the aspects of my mind, body, soul, spirit connection. This is great.
Yes.
And so I know that, Marcy, that you have a gift that you wanted to offer to our listeners here.
Yes, I would love to. You know, I would thank you. I would love to, because this is, you know, after I was trained pretty traditionally, I went into lots of different ways of healing modalities, and meditation, of course, is, we know through hardcore science, is incredibly nourishing for the brain and for our heart health and for our productivity, for sure. And so I kind of came up with my own concoction from lots of different things, and it's called the 8-minute higher ground meditation. And you can find it on the home. It's very easy. You can find it on the homepage of my website, drmarcycole.com, drmarcycole.com. And on the right side of the homepage, there's an opt-in box. You can put your name and email, and you will receive immediately in your inbox this download to this 8-minute meditation. And honestly, here's where we talk about a holistic download. You're calming your central nervous system. You're connecting to each part of your body. You're releasing anything in the mental health field that is not serving you. You're calling into the mental health field all of the thoughts and perceptions and ideas that will serve you. You're tuning into your heart and filling up with just, you know, presence and acknowledgement and gratitude and love in your heart. You're also connecting with the divine. And so it is a one-stop shop,
really nice.
8-minute. It's beautiful. And, you know, I really encourage people to download it to their phones, listen to it in the morning. If you're having a crazy day, stop. Everyone's got 8 minutes to stop. Or at the end of the day, as you go into sleep, as you release the day, you know, it's just a beautiful, very simple, very easy, and it's kind of contagious, because once you start doing it, you start to crave doing it more and more.
You need it.
yeah, so I really hope people will receive this because I think it'll serve everyone beautifully. I hope so, at least.
Yes, wow, thank you. This what a great gift. And I was thinking about, wow, that could be great for those people that want to connect to their calling or want to reconnect. Sounds like a great kind of way to kind of calm the body down and be able to hold the space for that through using your meditation, amongst other things. That's awesome.
No question.
So this is
because
great.
You're also feeling you can't dump stuff that doesn't work unless you fill up with the good stuff. That's what we were talking about when it came to mental health, and that's what this meditation does. It fills it releases, and then it fills you up, and then you're in a much better position to go out and conquer the world and do your thing. You know, so I would say download and enjoy, and go and be prosperous, and tell me what you think and tell me how it feels. I'd love to have continued contact with whoever receives this and finds it of value.
Oh, that's great. And then so for those of you listening, on the page here, there's a link right to Dr. Marcy Cole's gift so that you can click on it and go straight to her site. So, wow, this is so great. Thank you so much for taking this time out to share this with us. I feel like it's really valuable and can really support people.
Well, Phyliss, thank you for all that you're doing, this incredible series that you've created. What an amazing gift to all. So I appreciate it so much, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And so for all of you listening, again, this is Phyliss Francis Wigfall here with Dr. Marcy Cole, just encouraging you to step into your 8-minute higher ground meditation and start practicing the holistic model for professional communication. I mean, that's awesome. And then watch in the inbox for the next interview, as well as a replay of this interview. And, you know, I just encourage all of you, if you got a lot of value, to yes, let us know and pass this on to somebody else who can really use this. So thank you. Thank you for your time, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Be well.